If you've ever had that gut punch moment where you realize you've been working, grinding, performing, but not actually living, this episode is for you. Today we're confronting the brutal truth that your life might be passing you by, and it won't stop unless you do something about it. Today on Off the Couch. And welcome to Off the Couch, where psychology is for everyday life. Oh my goodness, I screw it up every time. So Off the Couch with Dr. Greg. I'm here with producer Bryan Gomez.
How's it going, you guys?
And Tony Sweet on the board.
Hello, hello.
Oh, I should say that I'm a psychologist just in case anyone just tuned in. But today on Off the Couch, this was kind of a personal one, Bryan, that Bryan brought up this episode idea. And it's interesting because it's not just a listener problem. It's an us problem. It's a you and me problem. It's an our problem. And chances are the listeners have experienced this too. It made me think, this is probably fairly universal. Mm-hmm. The sense that you're constantly doing, producing, hustling, but somehow missing your own life in the process.
Yeah, and I feel like we both know of each other's past and, our lives. So we can both say that we've both been in this situation at one point or many points in our lives, and I feel like anybody listening will be able to relate to this for sure.
And what about you, Tony? Do you ever feel like that? Life passing you by?
I think we all go through those stages. It's not an everyday thing, but I have got to a point either I was working too much and I'm like, I'm missing out on this over here. And then if you're having fun too much, you go like, I'm missing out over here on my, career side. So yeah, I have, but it's not a constant thing anymore.
Okay. Well, that's good. So you can kind of give us some tips on how to get through it by the end. Bryan, why did this issue come up for you?
Well, I feel like for the first time, I feel like when I first started to feel this was graduating or getting ready to graduate high school. I felt like if I didn't leave Fort Worth, Texas, I was going to be stuck. Like I felt like if I did not leave that city, town, I would be stuck with everybody else that just stays there and just finds a partner and builds a family. And and that's not a bad thing, but I felt like that would hold me there forever and I'd have no life from there on,
Oh, well, so you were escaping being doomed to live forever in Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. That's kind of interesting. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I never wanted to stay in my hometown. My hometown's not a bad place. I mean, it's actually nice, but I was so attracted to live elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was Los Angeles. My hometown, though, is only about 30 miles away from Los Angeles. It's not like it's really far, but so be it. I didn't end up very far from my hometown.
No, but we both ended up in the same place we both wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that's LA. I feel like a lot of people have that dream to just move here and live here.
Yeah, it always does blow me away that LA is an international city, that everybody everywhere I go knows Los Angeles and knows where it is. I remember that used to always kind of surprise me when I would travel when I was young. But it's one of those cool things.
Yeah. And then I feel like for me, the first time I really did feel like life is passing me by, that I could see it, was when I was in the military, and that was a whole different world. I was kind of unplugged from regular world, friends, family. Like there was birthdays I was missing, trips I was missing, just friends hanging out with friends that I was just missing. Like I was away pretty much, and I felt like their life was genuinely passing me by, and it shifted the way I even interacted with my family and everything. It was just distance, and it was kind of weird. That's the one time where I was like, oh, wow, like I am seeing it all happen and I'm just over here,
Do you feel like that's happening now in your life?
What do you mean by...
I mean, you brought up this issue and I couldn't help but think, oh my God, Bryan's overwhelmed. This was the picture in my mind, that you're probably overwhelmed and that you're working on a lot of things and you just feel like you're getting to engage less in sort of the pleasure of living and have to engage more in the constant of working and grinding.
It's funny you say that because it's, I think, the opposite.
Ah,
I finally feel like, now that I'm busy, so busy that I'm like just all over the place with my brain. Because when I'm not busy and I'm standing too still,
uh-huh.
there's been so many moments that if I'm not working, it feels like I am failing, I am falling behind, I am losing. Like it, if I'm not like this busy as I am, that's when I start to spiral and I'm like, I'm not doing the same thing my friends are doing. I'm not going on trips. Like if I'm not doing all these things, that's whenever I feel like life is passing me by. Which I did feel like that a few months ago. Now that I am really busy, I feel like,
Uh-huh.
oh, okay, I have a purpose. I'm back on track, you know? But since it was such a recent feeling and, I've had it, every once in a while, like I feel like we all kind of fall into that, stage of feeling like it's passing us by. But I do see where being busy could make you feel that way.
So for the record, you're in your early 30s. How exactly early?
Oh, yeah, I'm 33, you
Oh,
guys.
33. And I'm not quite double that, but I'm 62 now. So I have a different perception of this because when I look back on my life, I think, wow. I mean, often will joke that I spent my 20s in the library. Truthfully, I had to work going to high school, college, master's degree, and my PhD. Literally, I had either a part time or full time job that entire time I was in school. So basically, there were many months that I didn't sleep very much. I was constantly sleep deprived because I maybe could get 3-4 hours a night just because I had to constantly work on papers or research I was doing or go to work or go to class, but I was always doing something. So it was a tough time, and that time in many ways I didn't know what went on in pop culture. I didn't know. I was completely divorced from almost everything. I couldn't watch TV, so I remember, and I've said this before when I went to interview at UCLA, and they said they were asking me a wind up sort of ending question that's just sort of getting to know me question.
Uh-huh.
And they said, what's a recent movie you've seen? And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't think of a single movie that I had seen at all. And that was exactly my life.
Yeah, and that's why I figured like this would be a great topic for us to discuss because I know that about you in your past, and
Uh-huh.
I've even seen you work. I mean, during the pandemic, we thought you were gonna cut back on clients and everything, but it was the opposite. You were
Yeah.
so busy that you had no break. Like literally, life was passing you by because again, you fell into that work, 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 and also on top of like work, the pandemic was going on, and it was a whole thing, where life does just pass you by when you're so wrapped up with priorities.
Yeah, in the pandemic, that's a different thing because in the pandemic, I felt a little bit mission driven during the pandemic. One, that I could work, it was important that I do work because so many people were out of work. But two, I mean, that was sort of secondary. It was primarily two, which is that I was concerned because a lot of people were hurting a great deal during the pandemic. And I wanted to make myself as available as possible. I had a lot of old clients calling me back and a lot of people wanting to come back to therapy, people doing it virtually, but also I did still see people in person because I have a very large office. I had cross ventilation. I had the whole thing. Having worked in infectious disease, I know how this stuff goes down. So it was actually a very important time. I felt like it was important to be there for people.
And see, I think this was one of the few times in life that I felt envious um, of some people that genuinely were able to thrive and like just do well while like you said, a lot of people were suffering. And I happened to be on that end where it's like,
This suffering.
yeah, I wasn't working. Like, I couldn't work out. And like, that's my biggest like escape. That
Yeah.
I remember one time I was late to a class outdoors, and I called trying to let them know, and they were just like, no. I still get emotional because I remember I got so upset that I had to turn into one of the streets. I was running there. I turned into a street because I had to call my best friend and cry about the fact that I missed
Oh,
that one workout class, you know? So for me, that pandemic situation was just horrible. And
yeah.
I felt like I was envious of the people that were still living life, that nothing seemed to be wrong in their life, or, you know, they were still working, or if not working, even more, you know, and just going on while a lot of us were suffering and just stuck at home. Or I mean, even like my situation at home with my roommate was just like not great either. So it was just so many factors that were happening at the same time that I was like, it felt like I was drowning. And I even tried to find a psychologist during that time. And that was the time where the first time I feel like I was breaking in that sense, that I tried to find a therapist to talk to. And I didn't want to do it virtually because, again, I was like not wanting to do it at home, you know, and nobody really wanted to see clients face to face during that time, which that was super difficult too. And I was having a hard time trying to find a ideal therapist. Like everybody thinks they're gonna find their ideal therapist that checks all the boxes, you know. So that was a whole nother struggle that was happening too. So yeah, I felt there like that was a big time that for me, life was passing me by again.
So Bryan, tell me now. We talked that we're going to do a separate assessment video. I don't care. I want to ask you right now.
Uh-huh.
Tell me, do you yes or no for the following? My weeks blur together.
Wait, right now or?
Yeah, do right now, because right now is the only moment that really matters.
I mean, right now they do they are blending because I'm so busy.
That's maybe one.
Yes.
I spend most of my time on responsibilities, not meaning. Meaning being like things that really mean something to me.
That's true right now too.
That's true. Free
Yeah.
time feels like recovery, not enjoyment.
Well, free time doesn't happen much as of right now,
Okay.
you know? So I guess.
How about yes? Then you said
Yes.
yes. Okay. So 4, I say when things calm down, but they never do. So it's like, oh, when things calm down, then I'll do that. I'll clean. I'll do that. You know, but they never do.
Oh, I'm shooting for next year. I'm
Okay.
shooting for next year to have a
That's
breather.
you're saying. Okay. I rarely do things that feel joyful or spontaneous.
Like right now, I mean, true, I guess. It's just,
Okay.
it's work and catching up a lot.
How about I feel like life is happening around me, not with me?
Yeah, true, right now also.
Okay.
But that's just, I mean, because,
Well.
yeah, I mean, it's the truth, but it's been like, you know, getting back into the groove, and I'm trying to just be grateful about
Okay.
being back into the groove.
How about I prioritize work over connection?
Right now, I have to.
Okay.
Sorry.
7. How about I feel resentment, numbness, or emptiness? One of the 3.
No.
Okay.
Like, that's been my great point of view over the last year or so about that.
Okay. How about I can't remember the last meaningful moment I created?
Oh, man. I really can't. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. I'm trying to, like, yeah, because work is still fun and, like, it's memorable and stuff, but it's also work, you know?
And how about I worry time is slipping away faster than I can live it?
Yeah, because I feel like I've been playing catch up.
So in our handout, I'm going to have this quiz, and I'm going to have a more nuanced version that someone can take, because I think it depends on how much you think those things, how intensively. Today, we just asked it in a black and white way. So I implore you, and I could see this is affecting you, huh? What is coming up for you?
Well, because I haven't, like, reflected on it like that and, like, dissected it, you know, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, I used to do this, I used to do this, I used to do this all the time, and it was just, like, my little moments of, like, passion or, like, freedom, you know, like surfing. Whenever I could, I would just get in the car and go to the beach, and, you know, that was my moment of, like, bliss. And then Going to the dance studio. I used to do that every once in
Oh,
a while. Like,
wow.
I used to do all these things that were just so healthy in a way to regulate myself and just make myself happy. It's like my playtime. I feel like as adults, I've said this often, that we need playtime stuff that we do, like recess almost,
We do.
But like, for example, recess is our gym. You work out all the time too. That it's like it is a recess time of our day as adults that we get to like,
It is important.
yeah.
Okay, let's talk about what your score means. So this, you might be, by the way, I was saying, I recommend taking the quiz in our handout, which will be there, because it's much more nuanced. And I got a slightly different score when I took that version to this kind of truncated version I put together for the show. But my score wasn't too off, so I'm guessing yours won't be too off too. It basically says you're at high risk of life passing you by. This is why you wanted to do the show. You're in survival mode rather than living mode
Right now, yes.
right now. And it's interesting because I would say I was in that mode for 20 plus years, 30 years. I mean, it's not like, I think this is kind of a common thing. This is why I struggle with this particular episode in some ways, because so many people out there live paycheck to paycheck and are constantly like dealing with, how do you pay for your car? How do you pay for your house? How do you put food on the table? Just all kinds of crazy things. We talked about my concern about people who are on SNAP benefits or people who are just living day to day. We have such little sympathy and we have such disdain for people who don't have means, who are poor. And I think that's kind of the ill that I'm focused on in my way. But I think the pain of living day to day is actually a very common experience. So we can't demand that people live with intention and that everything's great and, always, things have to be wonderful and glorious. I think what we need to do is just be aware of where we are and how to make slight changes. And I'm going to talk about that because I do think there is a way through something like this, having been through it most of my life. By the way, when I took this quiz, I was like on the border of living with intention and early warning signs. And that felt right for me because I probably have some adjusting to do. I continually overcommit. Like that's just something that's a part of me. Someone asked me to be on a consultation board for a hospital, and I was like, well, that does sound interesting.
Oh God.
And then I had to just think about, well, how many hours do I have in a week? And you've bugged me about that, and you're not the first, but you've bugged me about it quite a bit. But, looking at the early warning signs, that's when life is starting to shrink around us in work and routine. There are so many reasons for all of this. And looking at the reasons, it's almost overwhelming.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, because I was also thinking about it in a way where I'm like, not only just surviving and getting by, but then like imagine doing that and then also like hating your job. Like, I feel like that would be a huge factor that would make everything seem like I'm just on autopilot and there's not even a soul in here,
Do you hate your job?
No,
Oh,
no.
whoa.
No, but I think about like other people that
Oh, okay.
work like
Right.
jobs that they hate, jobs that are just like maybe even a factory job or something that has nothing to do with their interests,
Well, with those people, and I've long said we can't all be in the ideal job. I feel like in many ways I chose my career path, but it was a lot of sacrifice and a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And I also acknowledge that I had a lot of breaks. I got a scholarship. I was born with a good working brain that I could manage all of this stuff. I rebelled by going to school. My family didn't want me to go to college. Didn't like, or they were not. We just didn't have a family who all went to college. I think I had a distant uncle who had gone to college, and that was sort of kind of cool to know of someone who did that. And my mother, I think, always did something really kind of important. She never talked about it, but she took a few classes at the local junior college. And she'd bring home her college books, as she was going as she was working. And I could only imagine that she was doing it I should ask her why she did that, but she took classes, it seemed like, for her own interest. My mother's very smart, but she, never puts it out there, never says much about that. But she took these courses, and when she was like at work and I'd come home from school, I'd read her textbooks because I would think, "Oh, this is so cool." It was like porn for information, like you reading this cool textbooks. So that was kind of cool, and actually watching her and observing her is what made it really okay. Plus, I was in a magnet program in school. There were so many things that worked to my benefit. And I was with a bunch of those magnet program students last night. A lot of us have, stayed connected. And I was just really impressed by every one of those people and the lives that they've created for themselves. And they haven't all been roaring like financial or successes. They're just people who've created lives that they're proud of.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed by that. So I'm going to say I had a lot of breaks that may not have been, I came from wealth or something like that. That's probably the major break that will give people a leg up for the end of time. But there are other breaks you get just by biology, where you live, your parent construction, how they are, support, schooling. I give a lot of credit to the teachers. So all of that worked together. And plus, like I said, I rebelled by going to school. I was like, I just focused on school because sometimes things at home were rough. So I just focused on school, and that was what it was. So we all had our thing. But as a result, though, I also worked. I had a first job at 14 and then got a longer job. I lied about my age, mind you, for both these jobs because legal working age is 16 here in California. And so when I was 15, I also lied about my age, and I got a job as a cashier in a movie theater. And then by the time I was 16 and got a license, then I could actually get real jobs. I didn't have to ride my bike too.
Wait, in your high school jobs, did you feel like life was passing you by when you were working?
No, it was so cool to work. I thought it was the coolest thing. And I was earning like $2.45 or $2.45 an hour, and then it went up to $2.90. I remember it because it was so like, wow. And then you could do things like buy pizza, and you had money. Like as a kid, you don't have any money, I guess, unless your parents give it to you, but there's no other way. So, when I had these little paychecks that were probably just laughable in many ways, but I was like, to be having enough to go buy pizza or buy lunch at school or do certain things, I thought it was the coolest thing.
Oh, I'm just thinking.
So let's talk about why there are so many different things. So who cares about my past? Our own reasons. There are just many reasons we get stuck in this thing, and that's why I said I'm conflicted by it, because I don't think everybody has this is a universal experience, and I think the demand to have meaning in your life is a fool's errand. I really do, if I can say. I think that the demand, that means it must happen. I think what you need to do is kind of switch it up. This is part of the solution, I'll just say right now, is you need to start looking at, you have desire to have meaning, start looking for it in the life that you have. Don't try to condemn the life you have and then try to say, that's bad, I'm going for X, Y, and Z. All that does is make you feel worse about your own life. Instead, to start to look at and be grateful for the things that you do have. Like I know, Bryan, you have a cat and a dog that are incredible.
Yeah.
You have a relationship. You live in a great place. And all of this stuff is a struggle, I know.
Yeah.
But these are things that you have. And so you also have a lot of other things we could go down the line. But those are just easy. Those are the low-hanging fruit. But let's talk about this. Time anxiety, we often are plagued by this, especially when we're young. Well, I don't know. When you're young, sometimes you feel like you have forever in front of you. And then the old people feel like they have no time, like it's all upside down. But the demand to perform, I think, there's more pressure on younger people than on older people. Older people probably have gone through all of that, so they feel like they've done it.
And then especially, I feel like just living in LA and being around, I've said this before, the people we're friends with, we know, or we work with, it's like measuring up resumes constantly, that it never stops.
Well, I had a professor who said that resume size is like dick size, and people are always trying to compare. But anyway, I think there's a few reasons for this, just to talk about what you just were. The shame of not meeting our invisible expectations. Like the shame, like we have expectations about how our lives should be, what we should have accomplished by a particular age, how we compare to our friends and the people that are important to us, the people we call the people that in psychology we call our reference groups, like the people we compare ourselves to. And that includes social media. And which so damaging about social media, we could do just show after show about the damage of social media, is this concept that's called delusion amplification. So a delusion is a mistaken or incorrect belief. And it's usually a very problematic incorrect belief. It doesn't necessarily have to be just any old incorrect belief. We usually use the word for delusion for something that's a little bit more than just, she's very nice. Well, she was nice that one time. That's not a delusion. That just may be an incorrect perception. A delusion's a conviction that you have, and that conviction is then amplified. So social media can amplify delusions by creating the virtual environment. That's what you're looking at, like on TikTok or Instagram, that lacks effective reality checking. Like you don't really know what this person's life is. You only see what the curated presentation that they're putting out to you is. And it reinforces your own distorted perceptions that you have. And then algorithms will continue that, because the algorithms will go, oh, that's what you focus on? We'll give you more of that. So you get more and more and more of people with these great bodies, or people who all seem to fly in Lear jets, or people who all believe the same conspiracy. It can be something like that. And these form communities. So there is some natural attraction. We're attracted to communities where we feel connection, but it can cause you to believe that you're either in or out of some community that you either qualify for or don't. And it can make you feel better or worse as a result.
I mean, that's so true. The most simplest thing you can look at is just somebody's following, how many followers they have. That alone changes and disrupts so many things in our world. But it sucks because even for part of my job, like I have to look at people's followings. I have to look at what these people do for work. I have to look at all these things before we can lend them clothes or anything, And it sucks because it feels like I'm evaluating if this person's good or not, or good enough or not for, certain brands. But it just, I don't know, it's kind of crappy because then again, you fall into, especially me working in it, I'm like, oh, well, if I don't have this amount of following, or if I'm not doing this, and, it's going straight to that point where, the social media is just pretty much messing us up the entire way.
Well, and it's because a lot of people put a lot of importance in that currency, how many followers you have. To me, it's all that they're trying to appeal to advertisers or people that want to push products, because you become valuable to the advertiser, to the person
Marketing
pushing
space.
marketing. Yeah. So you become valuable to them. But what's so interesting is it translates to a value to people in other places too, like the bars or, any old friend group. Or I've gone people, oh, that's somebody I follow on social media. I don't know if I should go say hi to them. And I'm like, well, they're not a celebrity. You can walk up and say hello to them. So celebrities, you can walk up and say hello to. So I mean, it's silly to think you can't. But the reality is, they're not. But they'll argue with me back. No, they very much are. Like, oh, I don't think I can say hello. What person doesn't want to be told, I really like, your Instagram or your following. I really like your fashion sense, or I love what you have to say. I mean, almost universally, they're going to say, oh, you just made my day, or how wonderful. Thank you. What's your name?
Do you think that's part of like that fear of being rejected when they
Yes,
say hi?
absolutely. Of course, that's what it is. And if the person's kind of ugly to you when you're kind of going up and saying something, I would hope that warrants an unfollow, and wow, that's a bad, that is not someone I should be following, because that person's fake online profile doesn't match their real self.
And it's funny you say that, because I almost don't like giving my social media away whenever I like meet somebody, because I feel like they're gonna judge me on what's on there instead of like me in real life, and that what's on Instagram isn't like me goofy, dumb, just not taking anything serious in real life. But even to that, like whenever I do give it to somebody, and I don't have a lot of following, but like the following I do, people are like,
you
oh,
do.
wow, like you're an influencer. And it's like,
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't. I don't know. But it's crazy how we place so much value on that.
We do. Probably too much.
Too much.
So the other thing is time scarcity. And this is another thing I hear a lot from clients, especially clients who subscribe to more new agey techniques, which is they don't have a scarcity time mindset. They don't have a scarcity mindset. And this goes for time too, or what we call temporal scarcity. That's the more technical term. But basically, time scarcity is the perception of having too little time, which shrinks our cognitive bandwidth. It's that our minds can't think as flexibly. We can't incorporate as much information because we're now focusing our mind and saying, oh, we have to accomplish this. It heightens your stress and it lessens effective decision making. Actually, you make your best decisions when you're not overly stressed, not having no stress at all, but somewhat, in a good functioning zone, and that you can kind of think flexibly. Well, this or this or this or this, versus, oh, I got to make this decision right now and just pick, which, that's often can lead to problems. Time scarcity can lead to a sense of urgency, causing individuals to prioritize quick wins over long-term goals. These are the impulsive people, like, oh, I want this. I want to win the lottery. Great. Good luck. Someone's going to win it. Maybe you. But most of the time, I think what you're buying is the fantasy of winning the lottery. So be it. And that sense of urgency and quick wins potentially compromises quality. We often don't do our best work when we want to do it fast. There's a saying in business: do you want it fast, cheap, or good? Pick two.
Oh.
And I actually really like that, because cheap and good, it can't be fast. But you can go fast and cheap. Fast and cheap might be like cheap doesn't really, you'd leave out good, or it can be fast and good, but it ain't going to be cheap. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Scarcity mindset can lead to a chronic feeling of being overwhelmed, panicky, and less productive. But I think there's a reality to time scarcity too. I mean, the reality is we don't have a huge amount of time. And I had to The reason this topic kind of made me think twice, and I hate to belabor me, but the bottom line, I've had like a few different things happen in my family. I did have a sister who passed away suddenly at the beginning of the year, and a brother who passed away after a long hospitalization. He's developmentally disabled, and that was especially hard. That one. They both were hard for different reasons. But the suffering he went through was very, very hard to watch. And what it made me think is that I need to start moving toward the people in my life even more. And I had already thought that, but I'm always so caught up in work, and concern about, paying the bills, paying the mortgage, paying the, this, the that, the this, the that. And now that our economy is having a huge amount of problems, it's affecting me as well. So everyone is, there's just a lot going around. And I'm very concerned that, our country is having a lot of issues right now. And that maybe the most important thing we can do is pay attention to the people in our lives and join hands with the people around us.
And do you feel like, this is just a personal question I'm asking you, if like, do you ever feel like there's still so much you want or need to get done before you die?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm like, I think about it sometimes, not like as a suicidal thing, but like just, like if I died, would I feel like satisfied with the life I've lived, And honestly, a lot of the time, I feel like I've done already so much. And I mean, it's not a long life I've had, but I feel very happy with all the things I have done and, tried and experienced so far.
So how much time do we have? Do you know? But
Like
I
20, less than 20, like 15.
okay. I will tell you, I confronted this when I was in graduate school. I got very sick. I caught a form of hepatitis, and I got very sick. I was very, very ill. I lost 55 pounds. I mean, it just went on and on. Anyway, I got especially sick one night, and I truly, truly thought I was going to die. My fever was such that, I just had the whole thing. And I was just very ill. And the most interesting thing happened when I had that belief that this was the end. I didn't feel panicked at all. I actually felt some peace. And what happened very interestingly as well, and this happened without my I didn't make it happen, it just happened, is I truly, and I have to laugh about this because it's so cliche, I truly experienced my life flashing before my eyes, where I experienced different scenes like very rapidly.
Oh, I just got the chills.
And I was like, oh, so, I'm passing. And I didn't feel the need to say goodbye to anyone. I didn't feel the need to do anything. I thought literally it was imminent. And I thought, well, I've had a good life. I've had a good life. And that moment, I did wake up the next morning, which was so amazing to me. And I was still extremely ill, but I was like, wow, I'm still here. So what's interesting to me about that is, whether it was real or not, I had the belief. The belief was absolute in my head, and it wasn't a bad belief. And what I did do, though, is it always reminds me as I go through life, like I experienced that my life was really good when I was very young. Like when I was younger than you are now. And I had that experience. It just made me think I still want to accomplish a great deal. I still kept working and doing things, and maybe working too much for a long time. But what happened is I had to always think back on that moment and go, you were happy then. All of the rest is just a bonus.
Aww.
And that's what I think. And all the time I get to spend with people, I think is a bonus. Like every new relationship, time with my family, my mom, and different people, it's all a bonus that I'm getting to have. And that actually helps me a great deal to think, and to have gratitude.
Gratitude, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Ask you a question.
yeah.
I it was funny because my sister and I was talking just about this yesterday. About she was like, because I told her, oh yeah, I interviewed that person. Oh, I met that person. At being from a small 200 person town in Kansas to meeting some amazing celebrities and
Oh, yeah.
influential people that I never thought in my life I would meet. Where she's like, you have done so much in your life, and then I had to think. I was like, did I? And then, do you think it's a good idea to sometimes take time out to write down the accomplishments that you have done and then make a bucket list of things you still want to do? Because I even told my husband, I said, the day I stop dreaming about my future, my life's done.
Oh, my God. So I was driving in and listening to the ABBA song, I
Huh?
Have a Dream.
Ah,
And that song is basically, she's like, I wish I wrote down the lyrics. I should have, but I was really floored by the song because she's like, I have a dream. It basically helps her get through in the darkest times. And she said, if you see the wonder of a fairy tale, then basically, it'll be there when things fail. Like you always know the future has some possibilities, some hope. And that I have a dream, I thought, oh my God, that's so on brand for this. And that just randomly came up in my car as I was
Wow.
driving. But that, I think that's exactly it. I think, yes. So operationally, what I tell with clients is I said, create a physical file. And I did this for a long time, and I'll tell you. And when my brother passed, I threw away a bunch of stuff, including this, because you're not in the right mind right after someone dies.
right.
So, but nonetheless, I'll have to restart it. Is have a physical file where you write down accomplishments. You put in like where letters, notes from people saying how much they appreciate you, something like that. You create this file, this good feelings file that you can always revisit. And I will tell you, over the years, whenever I revisited that file, and it's a physical file I had. I don't like to put it electronically because you kind of want to see it. And as you're going through the papers in the physical file, you go, oh yeah, I totally forgot about this. Oh yeah, and it brings back the positive feelings. But you're exactly right, Tony. It doesn't take away from more you might want to experience in the future. What it does is it builds that platform of gratitude about where you are now that sometimes we can forget because we get so mixed up in our day-to-day living. But I also like to have goals about things to accomplish, things to be. And it's hard for me to imagine that I'm going to stop working. In fact, I fantasize about slowing down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I totally makes sense.
So but we're all in different places, but I think it's good to operationalize that, make a physical file, write down your accomplishments, what you feel good about. This can be anything in your life. And make it kind of a gratitude file, things you feel good about, and when people express it toward you as well.
Yeah, and I feel, you FOMO, which fear of missing out, it became this big thing in the last 20 years. I don't remember in the 90s. Maybe they did use it, but I don't remember hearing it. But I honestly don't have FOMO. I don't see people on the internet going, "Oh my God, they're just experiencing live," because I know people are just expressing their best moment at that moment, and you don't even know once they stop recording if they're fighting with their boyfriends or girlfriends, and they're broke, their credit cards are maxed. So I think that's where people think they're missing out on life is when they're comparing themselves to other people.
This is where doing therapy has helped me, to be honest, because I work with people who outwardly appear quite successful, and they have real issues sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I also have worked with people who are struggling, and you look at their lives and you think, wow, good for you. Like there's
Yeah.
so much good here. So, you can't judge a book by its cover. Maybe that's a very important thing. And that whole FOMO thing, it's always bugged me a little bit. It's just envy. It's just envy. You're green with envy. But we call it FOMO because, but I always used to have that in high school. Like, I would be restricted and they were having a party, and I'm like, I want to be at the party. But, yeah. The best thing you can do is to stay in your lane and to stay focused on what you want. There is something called time blindness, which I suffer from a lot. Like if you go, oh, when was that? And I'll say, I don't know, because I couldn't hook it to something because my day-to-day life is somewhat familiar. So when things are always the same, they kind of blend together. It also happens when you're in the flow state. That's a very good thing. When you're in the flow state means you're really focused on some work you're doing because it turns your brain on in some way. Like movie directors or authors or people who really love what they're doing get stuck in this. I remember I used to do this when I used to, in the early days of programming computers. I used to think it was very cool. I know I went in a different direction, but I would sit there for hours working on this stuff because I thought, oh, God, this, because it was all very logical and stuff. And I could go for hours and it was like time just flew. But so time blindness can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. But I think it is good when we suffer from time blindness for like what I said was my earlier reason, which is, me being, having the same life day to day. I need to pepper it more with maybe experiences that are outside of the realm, being with people, having more markers in time than just there's another ABBA song. She goes, I don't know, I'm on an ABBA kick apparently. Or at least my Apple Music thinks I am. But it's a song called, I forget what it's called, but it's Super Trooper. She sings, all I do is sleep and eat and sing. And she's saying about, going on tour and how hard it is. And the only thing that made her suddenly happy again was knowing this guy that she had a love for was in the audience. Aww. So that was, she goes, and then I feel like a super trooper. Like that's when I feel good, is knowing that you're out there. But otherwise, all she's doing is marking time. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool because that goes back to having a connection is what makes all the difference. So this is all very hard to escape. It gets reinforced being hardworking. You earn more money. People say, good job. You can avoid uncomfortable feelings. I know I probably suffer from this. I'm work. I don't have to think about a lot of things, because I'm focused on other people, other things. The illusion that relief is just one more task away. I've certainly suffered from that. But relief never comes because the loop never ends. So the breaking point is people usually break when they say, I'm getting everything done except the parts of my life that actually matter. And that's the important thing. So there are different approaches. Can I suggest that kind of look at your life, maybe draw a pie, work, relationships, health, joy, rest, growth, meaning, and purpose, and see how much of your life you're attributing to each thing. And then ask yourself, what area am I starving? Like, is there one that needs to be fed more? And what area is consuming too much of my life? And what tiny 5% shift could help rebalance your life? And that's what I came up with, the 5% solution. Pick one thing, one change, and make a 5% shift. 5% is actually a lot, so you could even go less, but keep in mind 5%. Shave 1 to 2 hours off a 40-hour work week, if that's possible. Like 5% of 40 is 2. So that's, that's a big thing. What's coming up for you, Bryan?
Oh no, I'm just thinking of like, tips and
Oh,
just everything you're saying right now. I'm like, oh, okay, what should, or like, how could somebody do this? Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I struggle to even force myself to do like stretching in the morning, where I feel like we all should, and that's like
maybe
5 minutes
if
out
you
of your
want to
day.
do like that could be, if that especially will be more enhancing to you, then you can think of how can I do stretching. Like I can do 5 minutes of stretching, but if 5 minutes is too much, do three. But if three is too much, do one. But doing starts the ball rolling, and an object in motion stays in motion. So you have to put it into motion, even if it's just for 1 minute. So spend 5% more time with family, friends, pets, children. This was mine. Is I need to start focusing on the people around me. Could be the 5% shift. Could be adding an hour per week to an activity or a hobby that they love doing.
I also, whenever I want to do something in the future, I make sure I tell people that this is what I'm working on or doing or anything, because me telling people forces me to do it, or else it's like, well, you lied. You're a liar then if you don't do it.
Well, that's harsh. But what you're asking for is accountability. I don't think they should call you a liar.
No, I call myself a liar.
Well, I don't think that's a good thing either. That's going to be we're going to have to do an episode on self-talk and help you with that.
Oh yeah, that one. And I worked on it. So this is me doing positive self-talk.
So is there anything you can commit to doing a little bit more or less of this week?
I need to do stuff for myself, because I don't know if you guys have watched Wife Swap on TV or anything.
I used to do the psychological evaluations for Wife Swap. Is it still on the air or has it come back?
No, it's on. It's like now they've done the Housewives Wife Swap.
Oh.
So it's but it's actually really good. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Wife Swap was a clever concept. They're all in on it, but it was a clever concept, and but it was so fascinating to me because I did these psych evaluations. I would go and evaluate the families and look at their home environment and do all this stuff and write up a big long psychological report on that. Fun fact about me.
well, because they're doing they're doing one housewife, like a housewife
yeah.
of the franchise,
Yeah.
and then a normal wife.
Oh,
So they're switching lives like that. One of them had to go to a family that was completely off grid, no running water,
Oh, yeah.
all this thing. So it's crazy, but you see this beautiful, like,
she didn't have access to a plastic surgeon either.
no, honestly, the housewife that went there was so touching in the way that, like, you got to see this. She's already not like too crazy, but very down to earth. And you notice that the housewives from like the franchise miss their actual children, and they go to homes that have little kids, and they like cry when they're leaving because they like connect to the little kids. It's something that they just miss because they have older kids.
Well, good. I think they're only in there for a week. Is that what I think on our
3
Wife
days.
Swap, 3 days?
3 days.
Oh, I forget how long our wives were in there for the regular show, but basically, it's not very long.
Sorry, I got distracted about this, but one thing I did realize, I'm like, oh my God, finally people see how much work goes into like maintaining a freaking house clean, like having 2 pets. I thought it was going to be, easy peasy. With like my boyfriend, it's like having a kid as well, picking up after him, the cat and the dog, that I'm like, oh, it's a lot of time in the day that I'm spending cleaning up after each of them, that I'm like, ugh, I'm going to try to do that this week, where I'm like, okay, I need to do like something for myself in the day, other than the gym, because the gym I do count as my thing.
So now's your time to pick one small thing to do. Just don't do something. What one small thing?
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I want to say walk, but I walk with Cora all the time, so it's like,
You mean walk without Cora?
No, I just,
Okay.
I don't know. I'll figure out.
Well, you could go one extra. You could go down a block you've never been, or maybe you can do that extra stretching. I would say just start the ball rolling. If you think too vaguely, you won't do anything. If you think I'm going to do something different, then nothing different happens.
I'll try to meditate because since I'm not doing all like my meditative activities that I would before, I'm gonna try to meditate on my own and just have like that my little me time.
That sounds good.
What about you?
For me, it's spending time with people.
Okay.
Yeah, and I need to always spend more. And I'm going to be going to a play on Friday night with a friend, and I'm going to be going to Disneyland with Monique
Oh,
on
sick.
Sunday, and then yeah, and there are other things as well. And I had that day, afternoon, evening with my high school friends. Yeah,
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
yeah. I'm trying to make every effort to spend more time with other people. Anything for you, Tony?
For me, anything nature, anything. The good thing about moving out here, you know, there's a beautiful waterfall not too far from us, the forest, the mountains, and so anytime I just get the urge, I'll get in the car, drive up, go for a walk, and try someplace new.
So being a little bit more around nature. 5% more. People think drastic changes are needed. They are not. Consider yourself on the path that you're on. All you need to do is just veer a little bit. It's like going a little bit faster, a little bit slower, a little bit in a different lane. But you don't have to worry that you're on the wrong path.
And I feel like it's good that we talked about this so people can understand it's not just like them going through it. This happens, I feel like, to everyone at any time in
Happens
life.
to everyone. Yes. Well, I think that we've got to come to an end. Thanks for joining us on Off the Couch. If you saw yourself today in any of today's patterns, take a breath. You're not broken. You are human. Insight is the first step, but action is what moves the needle. Try your 5%. And so does social support. So if this episode hit you, share it with someone who you love, who feels behind, who feels like they are letting life pass them by. Go find our handout too, because it has the quiz, but it has a lot of tips on what to do. I actually offer quite a few tips on that. And also, check out the research on our youtube.com/Dr. Greg. We a bunch of research about this particular issue. Hit us up on socials at Ask Dr. Greg. And until next time, be present, be flexible, and be kind.